The CMO Confidential podcast is a proud member of the I Hear Everything podcast network. Looking to launch or scale your podcast? I Hear Everything delivers podcast production, growth, and monetization solutions that transform your words into profit. Ready to give your brand a voice? Then visit iheareverything.com.
Welcome to CMO Confidential, the podcast that takes you inside the drama, decisions, and choices that go with being the head of marketing. Hosted by five-time CMO Mike Linton.
When is the last time you researched something on a website? If you're like most people, AI did that work for you. And that raises a question. If AI is doing the work, what is your website really for? This behavioral shift means AI bots are becoming your most important new visitors, a challenge our sponsor Scrunch is taking head on. Scrunch is the customer experience platform that helps you understand how AI agents experience your site, when and why they show up, and what's blocking them from being retrieved, trusted, or recommended. Scrunch shows you the content and citation gaps and technical blockers and helps you fix them so your brand shows up when consumers start with AI, because your most important site visitor might not be a human. For our listeners, Scrunch is providing a free website audit that uncovers how AI sees your site and how you're showing up in AI versus the competition. Run your site through it at scrunch.com/CMO. Welcome, marketers, advertisers, and those who love them to Chief Marketing Officer Confidential. CMO Confidential is a program that takes you inside the drama, the decisions, and the politics that go with being the head of marketing at any company in what is one of the most scrutinized jobs in the executive suite. I'm Mike Linton, the former Chief Marketing Officer of Best Buy, eBay, Farmers Insurance, and Ancestry.com, here today with my guest, Megan Lally. Today's topic: what your agency wants to tell you but won't. Now, Megan is the CEO and co-owner of Highdive, an independent creative agency known for delivering breakthrough creative, including quite a few Super Bowl ads, which we'll talk about later in the show. She's been at Highdive for nearly 9 years and was previously a VP at Leo Burnett and account super at DDB. Welcome, Megan.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Oh, it's great to have you on the show. And I want to we'll start large, which is everyone, including, of course, CMO Confidential, has been talking about AI. And it feels like the concepts of brand building and creative marketing have taken a back seat to AI and performance marketing and big data and everything else. What's your thoughts on what I just said there and how people should be thinking about it?
Yeah, Mike, I think there's two answers to that. And thank you, by the way, for talking about AI. I've been listening to a lot of the recent episodes, and it's super helpful to just hear different perspectives and what people are dealing with, because there's so much talk about I kind of doomsday scenarios of AI. And so I appreciate the practical applications that some of your other guests have shared. I think first and foremost, I would say, instead of separating them, like there's AI and then there's brand building, I think that we should consider how AI can help in building brands. And so I'll give an example on that. So I don't necessarily think they need to be separate, and that's how we're viewing that at Highdive. The other piece is just the fundamentals of brand building haven't changed. So one of the things that we see now is just, I think everyone's trying to do everything, and strategy is fundamentally about decision making. So we're, I think, getting caught up in so many different options and so many different things we have to say to so many different people. And my request, I guess, would be, while we have some really fun tools to use with AI, how can we also help simplify to the things that we need to tell audiences that are going to actually move our brands forward?
Hey, if I parse that, what I hear you saying is people are leaping over the strategy and some other things because there's so much execution and there's so much measurement in the execution. Is that right?
I think so. I think there's also risk in making a decision and not saying the 20 things that our product or service does at all times. So I think we're losing the plot a little bit and making things more complicated than they need to be.
Okay, so what you're saying is there are a bunch of people putting creative in the back seat and strategy in the back seat with it because they're optimizing the interface. And I want to talk a little bit about now building on that. You said AI shouldn't replace creatives, and it isn't replacing creatives. It should amplify creatives. Tell us what you mean by this, how it works in practice, and then why so many people appear not to be doing it.
Yeah. So the example I want to talk about is Jeep is one of our clients. We've been working with them since we basically started Highdive. And we are, as you said, we're embracing AI in terms of saving ideas instead of, I think a lot of the narrative around AI, especially related to creative, has been that it's going to replace all humans and all creativity and we don't need it anymore. We're far off from that.
Before you go on, what do you mean by saving ideas?
Oh, so here, let me tell you. So we were charged with helping launch the new Jeep Grand Cherokee model. And as everybody, Jeep is an iconic brand known for adventure and, based on its capabilities of going off-road. It's one with nature in a way. So we had this idea for the new Jeep Grand Cherokee to have animals critiquing the vehicle. So they're showing off the three-row that was the three-row seating and the headroom and the luxurious interior. And so the idea was that animals were reviewing the vehicle because that is on brand for Jeep. It would have been, well, unless anyone knows any talking animals, I don't.
No.
It would have
Please
been
sneeze on a real talking animal, but it is so expensive.
yeah. So it would have been super impossible because animals don't talk, duh. Also expensive and time consuming to do all of that in CG. So what we were able to do was use AI to have these animals that look super real talking about the Jeep. We also developed this thing that we're calling Digit. It's based on deep learning infrastructure. I'd have to bring my super smart AI folks in terms of how it all works into the call. But we develop these models based off of any product that we're selling. So we have a digit of a Jeep basically where we can put it in all these different environments. So we've got a Jeep with animals in it, talking to it. Squirrels are inside of it, dancing to the music. A moose is inside of it, talking about the headroom. So that idea would have died because of the cost and the time. And instead, AI saved that idea. And it was building the brand. So they all go together. I don't think they need to be separate at all.
Okay, I fundamentally totally agree with you about this. But we've done a bunch of shows on the power of brands, the empirical evidence of brands in stock price and valuations of companies. Yeah, yes, and yet so many companies out there still see all the marketing you just talked about as a cost versus an investment. What is that happen? Why is that happening? And how much are marketers and agencies to blame for that happening because they focus solely on the creative and don't attach it to results?
Yeah. Well, I think when creative and marketing is done well, it's a force multiplier for business. And like you said, there's empirical evidence on that. When we have creative that resonates with people, and not just win industry awards, that's when it's really effective and it's an investment. It's not a cost. Unfortunately, there's a lot of work out there and creative out there that isn't so good. And I think that is when it's a cost. And so if you're not doing it well, and you're, by the way, not tracking the effectiveness of it, which there are different ways to track depending on what your objective is. But if you're not tracking the return on investment, it's difficult to make an argument for that. I wanted to talk about our work with State Farm. We did a Bateman Batman campaign last year that launched during March Madness. And one of the metrics that I love in terms of just penetrating pop culture and random people who don't even know that I worked on it come up to me and say it's some of their favorite work. That didn't win anything at the fancy industry awards. But one of
Which
the
is
pieces
shocking because at Cannes, there's over 1,000 awards.
yes, I know. I think we were robbed, but that's a different podcast.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we can point to in terms of those kinds of campaigns over time lead us to seeing things like on Times 2025 World's Best Brands, which is based on consumer surveys, okay?
Yeah.
Not fancy holding company people in France judging, not whomever else writing a poll on top 10 stuff, but consumers. Who are the world's best brands based on consumers? State Farm was #1 in 2025. They scored above Geico and Progressive, who significantly outspend State Farm. So those are the kinds of things, especially at a brand level, where you have powerful, breakthrough, memorable, effective creative. There's certainly other ways to measure that too, but looking at I just happen to love the personal anecdotes of people noticing it, like real people, not advertising people. But also when you see those standings based on consumers of how they are seeing our brands, it's working. And I think that we can do a better job sharing that with some of our partners who aren't at the marketing table, so that we can help demonstrate the power of the return on investment when it's
Yeah.
done well.
I always used a lot of trackers and then would, over time, track consumer input to sales, because the
Yeah,
company doesn't care really that much about anything but sales, profits, and maybe retention. So I
right.
think it's a good call out.
And Mike, I think it depends on the product or service that you're selling to. State Farm has it could have a bit of a longer lead time, a car, certainly a Jeep.
Yeah, because the
But
purchase
something like
cycle is so long. Yeah.
exactly. But something like Lay's, which we did a Super Bowl ad for this year and a Super Bowl
You have
campaign
been
for them.
great at getting all your clients in so far. I just
Oh,
want to
good. Well,
say,
I'm just
you're
trying to
doing
give
your talking
examples.
points so well.
But that's a quicker purchase decision, right? You can go to the grocery store today and pick up Lay's, which everyone should.
There we go. Hey, speaking of breakthrough, because we just talked about breakthrough and everything, I would like to talk about the Super Bowl ads. I know you've done quite a few, but I would really like your opinion on which brands really benefit the most from Super Bowl advertising and why.
Yeah.
And then which brands, by definition, then shouldn't be playing around in the Super Bowl. Just give us your thoughts.
Right. I think the top answer in terms of when is Super Bowl a strategic tool in terms of that return on investment that we're talking about is if you need mass awareness of something in a short amount of time. So to reach, over 100 million people on one day, if you look at it that way, it's a pretty effective buy. So last year, as an example, we introduced MSC Cruises, which is a European cruise line, to America with the Super Bowl. It was a great immediate hit where suddenly awareness skyrocketed on MSC. It actually, the Super Bowl buy kind of crashed their site for a hot minute. This year, we're continuing that campaign, but they didn't need the investment for Super Bowl because they had kind of hit that big mass awareness moment. So I think that's the #1 reason is you want a quick awareness driver. I think if you're already well known, if you don't have new news, if you're not trying to change perception, grow a certain audience, get that mass reach all in one day, I think you should seriously question whether or not you need to make that kind of investment on the Super Bowl.
How about a lot of the B2B companies doing this? Because we just talked about reach, and now we're talking about reach for some products where the buying universe is much smaller than the audience. Tell us what's going on with the B2B players, wins and losses in your head of which brand should be there.
Yeah, I get a lot of cold emails, a lot of cold emails.
Yeah.
And I think that some B2B companies are using Super Bowl for an element of swagger and to stand out. I think the B2C marketing rules apply to B2B. So while they're not going to be speaking directly to everyone, there is an element of, whoa, they must really know what they're doing, legitimacy of a B2B brand running in the Super Bowl. So I'm assuming that that's kind of the play that they're using.
It was great to watch the AI food fight going on in the Super Bowl.
Definitely.
I thought it was
Yeah.
great.
My parents had no idea what was going on with
Yeah.
those, but I enjoyed. I especially really liked the Claude ad.
Yes, there we go. Hey, we all know, and no one will deny this, that relationships matter between the agency and the client. And we all know a good relationship has a much better opportunity to produce breakthrough work. But when you talk to people, there's an awful lot of people that don't have that relationship, and neither side is what I'm going to call truly happy about it. When you look at the biggest mistakes, trust busters that clients and agencies make with each other, what are they?
We are going to take a short break for a word from our sponsor, Scrunch.
Over the weekend, I asked AI to do dozens of things for me. Please help me make this dishwasher start working. Settle a debate between me and my partner. Is it safe to sleep at 80 degrees? It's not. Please help me find a robotics kit for a 5-year-old operating at a middle school level. And even help me compare the Scrunch agent experience platform with Adobe's LLM optimizer. In every one of these interactions, I never once visited a website. In this day and age, what's your website actually for? The truth is, almost everything on your website is now for AI consumption. The Scrunch Agent Experience platform helps manage, optimize, and deliver content directly for AI to retrieve.
Now back to our discussion with Megan Lally.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone talks about having a good relationship, but not everyone has.
Yeah, look, there's no one that says, I'm a terrible collaborator, or I hate collaboration, or I'm against it. Everyone thinks they're a good collaborator. Everyone thinks they have an open door policy. But tell me why there's so few real good relationships.
Yeah, I think in practice it's just uncomfortable. We're all working on different things. We're not always in the same room. We might see things a different way, and it is uncomfortable to bring up something that you think you're going to be rejected or met with disagreement or any of those things. And actually, those conversations are where healthy relationships are built. So, and that is what's required to back to the kind of what are the bus related
The
to
bus.
that, right? Those healthy relationships built with trust and openness and honesty and integrity of I'm going to tell you something even if it's not what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear. That's what is required to do the kind of great breakthrough work that we need that proves that marketing is an investment and not a cost. So, Mike, have you ever been planning for a party and you ask somebody like, what's everyone going to be wearing?
Yeah.
So you do that because
All the time. Yeah.
You want to fit in,
think
right?
I don't have anything in my closet.
Right. But you want to know what everybody else is wearing so that you don't like stand out like a sore thumb, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to advertising, we have to break through all of that. So, but it's uncomfortable. You want to know what everyone else is wearing. You want to know what the competitors are doing so that it's not too risky. But to blend in with everyone from a marketing perspective, that's what makes it costly and not an investment. So I think there's just a lot of discomfort when it comes into practice of healthy relationships, doing breakthrough work. I think it's easier to kind of try to keep things status quo.
Hey, so all the clients say they want to hear the truth, but a lot of times if you tell them the truth, they can get pissed. What is, and then they will say, I'm really sorry I got pissed. I shouldn't have done that. Or if you tell the creatives, look, I don't think anything here is working. And they're like, did we love this one? This is like, and how do you get by that initial reaction to the truth when I say what you're wearing to the party really sucks?
I think it's important to know where the intent is coming from. So it's, the conversations that you're having aren't just, I don't like this, but I don't like this because of X, or we're worried that this is going to blend in with what everyone else is doing. And then we're not going to achieve the goals that we want to hit. So I think yes, there's an open and there's a kind of radical candor that I'm
Yeah.
encouraging here, but it needs to be rooted in why is this important for the goals that we're trying to reach together. And then you can agree to disagree and move on, but it's all in the service of the outcome.
Hey, when you're on the side of the pitch, when you're pitching for the business, do you test out the client by asking a bunch of hard questions early in the process to get a feel for this?
Yeah, I mean, when we get invited to a pitch, it's a two-way street, because there has to be chemistry there. I mean, we talk about healthy relationships, and there's plenty of fish in the sea. Like Highdive might not be the agency for everybody, and so we are also evaluating the potential relationship. So whether it's questions or through case studies that we're bringing to a meeting, we're kind of testing out where there might be heat or resistance or contradictions, things like that. So we're in a meeting. I was just in a meeting yesterday where we brought some work that we thought would make the room uncomfortable, and we wanted to see how they would react. And what was great is it led to a question of the CMO asking, wow, I'm assuming you have really had to go on a limb for this work. How did you push your clients to get there? And I love that it brought that question instead of another reaction could have been, I don't get it. I hate it. Why did you do that? We would never do anything like that. So
And when
how
you get that, do you go around and back channel this after the meeting and say, hey, this isn't helpful? Or do you just let it sit? Or is it really dependent on the players?
I think, everything is a case by case, but if we have a kind of a lukewarm initial chemistry creds meeting, it's like a first date with anyone. It's kind of, you both probably don't feel like it went well. So we had a meeting like that, maybe, I don't know, within the last 6 months. And it's hard too, because everyone's in a conference room joining. You can't always see everybody's faces and everything like that. But we just got this feeling of, do they want to work with us?
Yeah.
So I did pick up the phone and I called the CMO and I just said, why are we still why are we still in this? Like, why are you inviting us to the next date? And he just started cracking up. And I thought that was so endearing. He's like, I had no idea that's how we were showing up. So, I had to go out on a limb a little bit, and that conversation could have gone a completely different way, but it really brought us closer together.
But you would recommend everybody go out on the limb and give it a try versus let it sit.
I think you don't want to have any regrets. Just put it out there.
Since we're on the topic of pitches, one of
Yes.
your theories is clients should skip the pitch.
Yes, please.
Tell me why.
So, um, pitches are, I should say pitches are fun. I like the kind of blue sky. What would we do with this new brand? There's a lot of excitement around it. It's competitive. So there's certainly something to that many of us are drawn to. I don't think it's a good use of time and investment on behalf of the client or the agency. They're very time consuming. I mean, the amount of meetings and presentations that the brands have to sit in to sift through. Then the reason, and I'm saying avoid a traditional pitch process because it's, in addition to it being long and expensive, it's kind of fake. You go in blind. We like to build campaigns with our clients. So when we get an assignment to develop a campaign and we go away and we work on it, we're coming to you with what we think is the, the best foot forward, but it's kind of only half the information. So it's this kind of fake, I guess, theater environment, and and then you're kind of picking based on that instead of what it's actually like to work together. So my recommendation on a better approach would be to find agencies through references or research. AI is awesome at this now, obviously. Conduct some chemistry meetings and review relevant case studies for your business situation. So give them enough information to come back to you and say, hey, give me an example of where you've dealt with something like this before. And then if you like what you see, give them a project, pay for it fairly, and evaluate from there. But that's where you're actually going to get a test run of what it's like to work with an agency instead of a bottled up kind of theater approach to what the pitch is.
How about, you have all these agency search consultants or agency search groups. Are those helpful or not really?
I think it depends on who you're talking, who you're referencing. I think what the search consultants do very well is that they're looking for those matchmaking. They're matchmakers. They're looking for the right kind of agency for what the client needs. So I think they're very helpful in that regard, where they're trying to find the perfect match. The ones that facilitate the most real life, like real working scenario, like I'm proposing, are the ones that are the best, because you're going to set that up for success. It's like an arranged marriage. The more time the couple's spending together, the better chances of success are. So, we've worked with consultants who have done that. We've worked with consultants who kind of gatekeep the whole process. They keep the client and agency apart, and everything is very mechanical. And I think that the chances of success there are lower. And
I would agree
ultimately,
with
at the end
that.
of the day, if you want,
The cultural, you don't want to hide the cultural connection.
not at all. And it's just, again, it goes back to, it's so foundational for us. We just believe you need that to make great work. To remove that from the process, I think is a mistake.
Hey, so before we get to our traditional last question,
Yeah.
no matter how good your relationship is with your agency or your agency relationship is with your client, give our listeners one thing they should do in the back half of this year to make it better.
Yeah. I would like to ask the marketers to think about your one thing. Back to there's AI and there's all these channels and there's all these customers, there's all these things that we want to say. But is there a part of your marketing plan where you can really think about the one thing? Like, what's the one thing
I feel
that's
like
gonna
we're
make
in
it
City Slickers and it's just the one thing. That's
just
probably a movie a little too old for a lot of people, but yeah. Uh,
But just what's the one thing? Make a decision, make some sacrifice. But if people aren't choosing your brand, why aren't they?
can
And
you give me an example of one thing from
yes.
any, you can sanitize it or whatever you want, but
Okay, so Lay's. We just had a great Super Bowl run with them a few days ago, and our one thing with the Lay's spot, which for anyone who didn't see it, it was a story on a multi-generational family farm, because that's where Lay's are grown. And the farmer passed down the
yeah.
farm to his daughter, who was also farming with him. And our one thing there was made from real potatoes. And Lay's could say so much stuff. They're always innovating. They have a ton of flavors. They have more flavors than any other
They do
chip.
have a lot of flavors, yeah.
There's so many different ways they can go. But for Super Bowl, we boiled it down to boiled. They're not boiled, but we boiled it down to made from real potatoes. And
I'm
really
glad you
about,
corrected that because I'm certain a ton of our listeners were thinking, I bet they're boiling those potatoes.
well, I will get a phone call from Lay's. They're not boiled, but simple ingredients, fresh, all of that came out of the messaging. But we said our one thing is made from real potatoes. And that led to really great work. And so many, and so it's just the simplicity of it. And consumers they're seeing so many ads and so many messages, and everybody's busy and all that stuff. You gotta pick the one thing.
And there's so many
Um,
brands that pick the 4 or 5 things. And I think that makes it really hard on creatives, right?
it makes it hard on creatives. It makes it hard on the consumer. Consumers are not going to remember 5 things. They're going to remember one thing.
Yes. So this brings us to our traditional last question. Practical advice we haven't discussed yet, and or funniest story you can share on the air. You can take both topics or one, but you must take at least one. So fire away.
Okay, I'll take both because I wanted to encourage clients to ask their agencies. I guess in the world of what is your agency not telling you, ask them, right? So here's a couple questions that I encourage marketers to ask their agencies and their teams, by the way. It doesn't have to just be your agency. It could be your team that's reporting into you. But 2 questions. The first is, tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. Get points of view from your team or your agency, and loosen I guess, the ties to that. Like, they can be wrong, it can be wild, but so many people have really good thoughts being so close to your brand. Ask them what they need to, what you need to be hearing, not what you want to hear. Um, the second question is, are you doing your best work for us? And if not, why not? And again, find the right moment to ask your agency this or who you feel comfortable.
They're probably not in
But
the big room.
no, I would not ask that with an audience. But one of our clients asks me this quarterly, and it is the best question for a CMO to ask their agency, right? Because it's like, are you guys doing your best work for us? And if not, what can I do to help remove those barriers? And so, this is all in the effort of if your agency isn't telling you things that make you uncomfortable, I think you've got a cheering squad, not a strategic partner.
Yeah, go
That's
get
my
it. Did you have another question you want to throw in there? Because I think you did at least two.
I did too. I have two. Those are my two
Okay, those are
good
two. So
questions.
now we're to the funny story.
Okay, now the funny story. So the funny story is way back when we were starting Highdive. It was basically me, Mark, Chad, and Louie, our late partner, and we had a great opportunity to meet with Jeep, which everyone knows the end of the story because I said we've been working with Jeep. But the meeting, our meeting time kept getting pushed back. And so we had all just left big agencies, started Highdive. We were not working with a lot of capital. But we wanted to bring a snack to the client team because it was like 6 or 7 o'clock at night by the time, and we were supposed to meet at 4 or something. So we kind of had a big argument about how much we were spending on cheese, but we wanted the finest cheese. So you could tell the account side of us wanted the good cheese, and then the frugal side of us was like, well, we don't want to overspend. What if this meeting doesn't go well?
Yeah,
And
the
we spend
CFO
hundreds of
wanted
dollars on
cheese
cheese.
whiz. Yeah.
Yeah. But we went with the good cheese. And so sometimes we're known as the cheese agency to our friends at Jeep. And obviously it worked because we're
Oh,
still
wait,
working
I
on it
must
today.
know, what kind of cheese did you get?
Oh my gosh, it was a fancy French cheese that we
Like a
debated over.
brie or a camembert or something really big with crackers and stuff? That's
Shame
big.
on me for not being prepared with the name of the cheese, but it was from the cheese. Shout out to the cheese lady in the Detroit area because that's where we went, and everyone was very grateful for the cheese.
All right. Well, this is the first time cheese has been referenced ever on the show. So thank you, Megan. And thanks to everyone for listening to CMO Confidential. New shows drop every Tuesday, and you can find all of our more than 160 shows on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube, which include If You Drop the Best Marketers of the 1950s into Today's Environment, How Would They Do? Why Can't? Is AI an extinction event for agencies? And the truth behind the curtain in B2B marketing. Hey, all you marketers, stay safe out there. This is Mike Linton signing off for CMO Confidential. When is the last time you researched something on a website? If you're like most people, AI did that work for you. And that raises a question. If AI is doing the work, what is your website really for? This behavioral shift means AI bots are becoming your most important new visitors. A challenge our sponsor Scrunch is taking head on. Scrunch is the customer experience platform that helps you understand how AI agents experience your site, when and why they show up, and what's blocking them from being retrieved, trusted, or recommended. Scrunch shows you the content and citation gaps and technical blockers and helps you fix them so your brand shows up when consumers start with AI. Because your most important site visitor might not be a human. For our listeners, Scrunch is providing a free website audit that uncovers how AI sees your site and how you're showing up in AI versus the competition. Run your site through it at scrunch.com/CMO.